Robert Lazo.
My name is Kaleem Nars, and our topic is the 16th Street church bombing.
We're going to discuss what happened, what was the aftermath, and how it's related to today in the present day. Questions we always get asked is, what is racial terror?
The answer to that is, racial terror is when one group uses violence or scare tactics towards another group based on ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation.
And racial terror has been going on since the Civil War and all the way up to the 1960s. So we're talking about the background of Birmingham in the 1960s. Founded in 1871, Birmingham became Alabama's most industrial and commercial city in the U.S. But by the 1960s, it was one of the most racially discriminatory and segregated cities. So we're talking about the background of Birmingham in the 1960s. Founded in 1871, Birmingham became Alabama's most industrial and commercial city in the U.S. But by the 1960s, it was one of the most racially discriminatory and segregated cities. The city had no black police officers or firefighters. It was known for having the strongest and most violent chapters of the Ku Klux Klan. Few of the city's black residents were registered to vote at all. Had seen at least 21 separate explosions at black properties and churches in the 8 years before 1963, thus earning the nickname Bommingham. Police in the city would technically use attack dogs or water hoses to subdue not violent protesters, more calm protesters and African Americans in general. While the African Americans always tended to be peaceful and non-violent no matter what. Here we're to talk about Eugene Bull Connor.
So he served from 1937 to 1957, also doing a term 1957 to 1963. He enforced the Jim Crow laws, denied civil rights and voting rights to African Americans, and also employed the police to use violent tactics to stop their marches for peace.
And here's another example of him using forcing the fire department to use fire hoses against African Americans. Now we're talking about the 16th Avenue church bombing happened September 15th, 1963. Around 10:22 a.m., a minimum of 15 sticks of dynamite were placed under the steps of the church close to the basement. It was youth day at the church, and many children were there. An anonymous man called the 16th Street Baptist Church. It was answered by the acting Sunday school secretary, a 14-year-old girl named Carolyn Mall. To Mall, the anonymous caller said these words 3 minutes before terminating the call. When the bomb went off, it shook the entire building and propelled girls' bodies through the air like rag dolls, as one witness described. Several other cars parked near the site of the blast were destroyed, and windows of properties located more than 2 blocks from the church were also damaged. Here are the victims of the bombing. In total, there were 4 dead. Addie Mae Collins, who was 14.
Cynthia Wesley was 14 as well.
Carol Robertson, who was 14.
And Carol Dennis McNair, who was 11.
22 more were injured. And here are those pictures of the girls that were killed. So the perpetrators of the bombing were 4 members of the KKK. Thomas Edwin Blanton Jr.,
Herman Frank Cash, who died in 1994, was the only one of 4 who wasn't prosecuted, while the others were did select imprisonment in 2001.
Robert Edward Chambliss, who was only convicted for first-degree murder of one of the victims, Carol Denise McNair, and Bobby Frank Cherry were each convicted of 4 counts of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment in 2001 and 2002, respectively. Now we're talking about the aftermath of the bombing. So in the aftermath of the shooting, an increase of violence erupted in Birmingham in the following the bombing.
There were riots that broke out between white and black youths with destruction of property, fire bombings. Also, racial tensions further increased due to the bombing of the church.
For the impact of civil rights, Congress of the Racial Equality, members of the All Souls Church marched in memory of the 16th Baptist Church bombing victims.
Some little girls were able to spark support from all around the country for the civil rights movement.
Because of the massive support, it helped lead to the passing of both the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, thus giving African Americans more rights in America. Now we're talking about how it relates to today. First, the New Zealand mosque shooting. In New Zealand, a white supremacist loaded with military-grade weapons entered two mosques, and ended up killing 50 people in total. While the name was not given, a manifesto was found in hatred for Muslims in general.
The Great Replacement, 87 pages, more than 16,000 words. Not rambling, but a spell-checked reference dissertation on a hate-filled view of immigrants, immigration, and Muslims. Unsigned. It is the killer's explanation for why he did this.
These are people who I would describe as having extremist views that have absolutely no place in New Zealand, and in fact have no place in the world.
There is no doubt the 28-year-old under arrest is a white supremacist who believes his own white European race is being wiped out by immigration, labeling it white genocide. It is also the universal rallying cry of hate-filled white supremacists across the world. In Charlottesville, Virginia, the neo-Nazi cry was... In Warsaw, Poland in 2017, some marchers in an Independence Day demonstration carried banners that read White Europe and Clean Blood. The New Zealand killer streamed parts of his attack live on Facebook. The video spread to YouTube, Twitter, news sites before police pleaded for it to stop.
I have seen social media footage. It's very disturbing. It shouldn't be in the public domain, and we're doing everything we can to remove it.
But hours after the attack, copies of the gruesome video still continued to appear, shared by social media users. While police will not discuss motive, the suspect refers to Dylan Roof and writes he was inspired by white supremacist Anders Breivik, who killed 77 people in Norway 8 years ago. He does try to explain his own breaking point came in 2017. The French presidential election of what he describes as an anti-white ex-banker. And
Then after the Charleston church shooting was perpetrated by Dylan Roof when he entered a Baptist church, opening fire on the congregation.
2015 in Charleston, South Carolina, a white teenager named Dylan Roof murdered 9 African Americans in a church. The white supremacist reportedly said, "Y'all are raping our white women. Y'all are taking over the world," as he gunned down unarmed parishioners. The rhetoric is old, but new technology has allowed these messages of hate to be spread in real time across the globe.
And in Orlando, there was a nightclub shooting by Omar Mateen, who hated gay people in general. It totally killed 49 and injuring many more.
Music, it went with the beat almost until you heard just too many shots. It was just like bang, 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 bang.
Oh my God,
From what I saw in our section of the bar, it was just a quick drop, hit the floor, hit the ground.
We both heard the shots. We both looked at each other what the hell is going on? And once people started screaming, my first instinct was to run and just get out.
Although it's still early in the investigation, we know enough to say that this was an act of terror and an act of hate.